Good morning, friend. Greetings. Welcome to yet another show of your favorite show, Manage Better. This is episode 54 in this series, and I'm glad that I have been able to sustain this for so long. And with your support and encouragement, this has been quite a pleasant experience, and I hope it grows further. So, thank you once again. I can see that we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and also on our guests' LinkedIn feed. So fantastic. Seems like technology is helping us today, and that is always good to know. So those who've been able to join the show already, let me know in comments where you are from, and if you have an early question for our guest, let me know that as well. And meanwhile, I will get started with the show. So, a little bit about the show. Those who are new to the series, this series is more around managing better. So how can we manage better in every situation? We have no control on where we land in life, where we arrive, but from where we are, we certainly have control on where we can go. We can keep getting better, we can learn new things, we can apply new things, we can keep getting better in our life, in our career, personal, professional, everything. So this show is more around the skills that we need and we can learn from others to get better. And since it is a mid career kind of a focus that I have, I try and keep the topics which are around career related topics. What are the skills that we need to know? And innovation is one area that all of us need to learn more. Right? So, if you, unless you have been living under Mars, a rock on Mars, you would certainly have heard that innovation is the word for the 21st century and so on, XYZ, right? A lot is said and a lot is talked about innovation, but as is the case, we sometimes don't fully understand it. So, as you know, if I don't fully understand a topic, I go to an expert, and today is one such expert that I have been able to invite, and we will get to him in a bit. So, Yogesh and Dilip have been able to confirm that LinkedIn is working. So, that is always a concern that I have, that are people in the room able to join the session, right? Of course, this is always recorded, but the fun of a live session is that you can ask your live questions and then we can take those questions. So great, quite a few people have been able to join. So for most of us, innovation is similar to some of these big ticket items that we keep hearing stories, and we will hear more stories from our guests. But we forget sometimes that innovation can be done almost on a daily basis. The other area that we talk about is innovation is always out of the box. Why can't be in the box, right? So our life or a career or at work, we have so many limitations and concerns, and there's a like a box formed around us, which is limited budget, limited resources, limited this, limited that. So actually, we are in the box, but we are expected to do innovation outside the box. So what is that concept? Are there any processes? Are there any tools? Is it a mindset? Is it not? How can we improve our innovation quotient, or how can we improve our ability to innovate further? All this and much more. There is one person I know, Vishal Kapse, a good friend and an expert innovation facilitator, who is my guest today. So I'll quickly bring in Vishal as I introduce him. Vishal, namaste and welcome to the show. You're
Hi,
looking
Anshuman.
you're looking dapper and handsome as always, and giving me a complex, but we will cover that topic later.
Not your pepper, salt and pepper look, Anshuman. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm honored. I'm on this show after such a long time, and it's great to talk to you and your audience. I'm sure there are several of them. Your show has been growing. Anshuman and I have known each other for over a decade now, right, Anshuman?
Yeah,
Maybe over a
maybe more
decade.
than, yeah, around
More than
that
a
time.
decade. Yeah. So you're very good friends first, and then of course, great colleagues. He has been my client. So we share several levels of relationship with Anshuman, and I'm really excited. And thank you for making the time on a Saturday morning. I know it's not easy for people to make it to these shows on weekends when they have family commitments. Thank you so much. And I thought there's nothing better than doing this through Manage Better, right? Because like Anshuman always says, anything that's word doing is word doing better. And I'm sure innovation is word doing. And if in this half an hour, 40 minutes of the conversation, if if even one of you walks away of how innovation can be done better, then I think, Anshuman, we have met our objective. Um,
Absolutely, I agree.
so, so with that, I'm happy to have a conversation, candid conversation, and answer any questions. And I'd like to keep this as interactive as possible. So super excited. Let's
Cool.
let's get started.
Thanks, Vishal. Thank you for the kind words. And yes, of course, today, however, you are not here as a friend. You are here as an innovation expert, right? So we will listen and learn from you. And a little bit about Vishal. Of course, as you can see, he is founder and principal of CtrlX. CtrlX is a India-based but globally operating consulting firm which operates in the space of operational excellence, innovation, and similar topics. Highly, distinguished client list, which I would not talk about. I would suggest that you quickly go to Vishal's profile on LinkedIn and quickly follow him and check about his company. You can also go to his company website, controlx.in, and find out a little bit more about them. And if later during the show you find that you have some question that needs a little deeper discussion, or you want to hire Vishal or his organization, then of course the LinkedIn is the best medium today, and keep that conversation going. So with that out of the way, that marketing plug out of the way, for 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 what it is worth, I'm actually looking forward to this conversation, Vishal, because I've I come from a school of thought where we say that innovation is overhyped. So we do innovation every day. We need not overhype it to the extent that everybody starts thinking that, oh, it is something unique, elitist, out of the reach. I can't do innovation and so on. One difficulty with glorifying something to this extent is that a vast majority of people start thinking it is beyond us. Right? And that is a theme that I wanted to explore. And through this session, and I know that you work in a space which is kind of democratizing innovation and saying that it can be done by everyone, and it is not just the high end one that we most often see. And that's why I wanted you as a guest, not so much because we are good friends, that aside. So that's the area that I wanted to explore, and we will get deeper into it as we go along. And the format of the show, those who are new to the show, is that midway during the show at around 11:30 India Standard Time, I will open for questions, and you can post your questions depending on where you have joined from. If you joined from LinkedIn, please put in comments, and if you joined, of course, on YouTube, please do the same. We will pick up your comments or questions as based on how much time we have, and so that's the format. If you are new, also, it is likely that you don't follow Vishal and me. And what are you waiting for? So you can go and do that right now. And in case you have worked with us or know us from the past or want to know us better, you can connect as well. But follow is the right method to do that on LinkedIn. Okay. So Vishal, that of course is a broad intro, you can say. But my like I said in the introduction, my key area and my key reason for this session is that innovation is generally seen as accidental. The most common story around innovation is 3M inventing that post-it thing, and it was never meant to be, uh, what it was. But it is the most common story that anybody, any trainer, coach, facilitator in their session gives. Unfortunately, that is also pretty much the only story that gets around. Right? So sadly, and that tells me that the accidental or the romantic part of innovation that is often shared is very limited. That is not actually the norm. So, what is your view on this? Is innovation more accidental? Is it more process oriented? Is the post-it story pretty much the only story going around? And what is your view on this topic? Just to warm up the audience and ourselves as we go along.
Okay. Very interesting question, Anshuman. And the first thing I'd like to clarify is you called me an expert in innovation. I'm not. And which is why when you said, can we say innovation consultant? I'm not an innovation consultant. I'm an innovation facilitator. And that's because I firmly believe innovation can be done by anybody, anywhere. The only
Hmm.
value I can bring is create that environment and facilitate it through you and through the environment. So coming back to Post-it, as an accidental innovation, I think one of the myths around that is that it was accidental. Post-it was not accidental. What was accidental is the glue that was created. It was supposed to be for aircraft engine manufacturing glue that went bad and it didn't stick well. But what people don't know about Post-it, it is that it took 12 years for them to actually commercialize Post-it as a product, right? They had it, they were trying to market it, they marketed it, they failed miserably, almost giving up that Post-it could be even made into a product, and only after several attempts were they able to actually make it commercial. And if you go deep into Post-it, you will find that there are two elements of when it comes to innovation. One is creativity or a creative idea, and the ability to implement that idea. Only when these two come together well is when innovation happens. And in case of Post-it, particularly in case of Post-it, when they had the only success came when they were able to give those Post-its in the hands of the customers after several marketing campaigns for several years. So they took 7 years of development and 5 years of actually marketing. So the only accident that happened in Post-it was a glue, and the second accident was actually the yellow color, and that was because it was yellow because it was one of the scrap papers that they had to use initially to test the product, and then they decided not to change that yellow color. So it is not actually an accident. It is a creative idea implemented through a proper process. And that's what Post-it is all about. There are several stories on innovation, and we'll talk about those examples as we go along, hopefully, based on those questions that come up. But based on that, I think we should, if you look at this equation of creative idea converted into an and implemented well is when innovation happens. And if you go deep into that, then you will start unraveling all the myths about innovation. And so we will go deep into that as we move forward.
Sure. So, of course, the lesser known part, like you shared, is that it wasn't as much accidental as it is sometimes made out to be. The accidental part is a fantastic story, and many storytellers then use it, and then it becomes Chinese whispers and goes around. So I'm glad you cleared the air on that. Uh, but it actually reinforces what you told, Vishal, or what you shared. It reinforces that innovation sometimes, or some component of innovation might be an accident, but unless you have the process and unless you have the infrastructure and the system to convert that into a marketable or idea, or not only an idea, a product actually, or a service, it is of no use. Right? So if innovation had remained that glue that didn't stick very well, and or the accident had remained where it was, we would never have had Post-it or the advantage of Post-it that we have today. The other aspect sometimes that I speak about is that creativity is actually coming up with that idea, and innovation is taking that idea to market. So, and to make money out of it, right? So obviously, money, as in sometimes innovation may not make money, and or may make money later on, but at least having the intent of making. Anything on this? Would you agree, disagree, or any comment on this, that creativity is actually coming up with the idea and innovation is taking the idea go to market kind of thing?
Yeah. So for innovation, creativity is the foundation of innovation,
Hmm.
and you need to nurture creativity to be an innovative organization, innovative team. Uh, but creativity by itself is not sufficient.
Hmm.
You can get great ideas, but if you cannot convert it, if you cannot implement it, and do not have the courage to take it to the market and the perseverance to actually commercialize it and bring value to the customers, and if you are unable to make that link, then creativity by itself is of no use. And hence I always say the definition of that's the difference between invention and innovation. Invention is you can invent something great, but if it can't bring value to a specific customer, and if it cannot be commercialized, and if it is not business viable, then it's not an innovation anymore. It will die a natural death. And there are several examples. And in fact, most innovations fail, right? The research shows that 96% of innovation fails.
Hmm.
uh, and Post-it, like you, good that you brought up the example of Post-it. Post-it was there, it was supposed to fail. uh, it was not because of the idea that it survived, it's because of all the other things that's happened after the idea that made Post-it successful. So yes, uh, innovation in my view is creativity implemented,
Correct. I think well said,
value
because
added to consumer through a viable business model. That's what makes innovation so exciting.
and as you say, viable business model, obviously it means that there is an intent to make money out of it, so, and I keep repeating to everybody that money is not a four-letter word. There
Yeah.
is the intent of all business is to make money, of course, through legal and feasible means. Fair enough. So fantastic start. I think we have over 100 people already in the show. Vishal, you are a numbers person, so I'm sharing some numbers with you. This will grow. Don't worry. And Okay, so I'm glad you brought up the invention part, because in many a time I get to hear this. What is new in this? It need not be totally new, because the totally new part is the invention part. The application of what is already available into slightly different stream, or in some other location, some other place, some other context, it's in itself is innovation, right? So that's what I learned from what your last few minutes is, that it need not be totally new, because totally new doesn't happen every day. Totally new is more like invention, never existed before kind of thing. But moving on, I the other area I wanted to explore with you, Vishal, is that around this mindset thing. I've always had this view that uh, we need not be overly creative, we need not be overly innovative, but if we have the mindset of persistence, following a process, having a system and a team, right? So where in the team some people may have additional skill sets than we have, and so on, innovation certainly is feasible. So the area I wanted your response or you to explore with me is this concept of the mindset being more important. Anything on this? Anything that you want to share?
Yeah. I'll go to the mindset piece,
Sure.
Anshuman. But you brought up a very important topic right before this, and you talked about the the schools of thought in innovation. That innovation has to be disruptive.
Hmm.
So there are several. There are the old school of thought is that the innovation can either be incremental innovation or sustaining innovation, which is that you're making incremental changes to your existing product, or it has to be a disruptive innovation where you disrupt the market, you bring in a new product for new market.
Hmm.
However, there is something called a third way of innovation that sits in between these, that a lot of us may not know or may not have explored, where you design your innovations around your core product, and you create complementary innovations around your core product. And for that, there are several methods. Like you said, is there a process? Is there a method for innovation? Is another thing that you talked about, right? So there are several methods based on who are you innovating for. So there are basically two questions you need to ask, right? What are you innovating about? And that's a strategy about innovation. And how are you going to go about it? So when I
Hmm.
say what are you innovating about, then there are several methods. For example, the blue ocean strategy says go and create a blue ocean where you are talking about creating new markets where there is no competition. So the competition becomes irrelevant, right? Then there is you could use disruptive innovation where we are talking about creating new products for new markets. There is incremental innovation. We are talking about creating improving your existing products for existing markets, right? Then there is we have jobs to be done. For example, is a technique that you will create. new value propositions for your existing customers. So there are different ways and methods of innovating. Design thinking is one of the ways of how you do innovation, in terms of the methods. So there are different methods, and what is common between all of these are the mindsets that are required for you to be innovative, right? And will that this brings to the mindset something that's common across all these methods is the mindset, wherein, like you said, you need the first thing that you need is you have to have curiosity. Okay, curiosity, to be able to create a environment of curiosity where people are curious about finding out new things. There is candor to put your hand up and ask a question, right, in an organization, for example. So that mindset of having curiosity, focusing on the customer, and understanding where I want to innovate are different mindsets that you'll have to use for when you go about finding out where to innovate and how to innovate. So mindsets play a key role. For example, there are different mindsets, right? Experimentation, your ability to experiment, your ability to fail after the experiment. How do you handle failures after experiment? How far are you willing to go? How much courage do you have, and what's your risk appetite in taking an innovation to its logical conclusion? Right? How much of collaboration are you driving? Because innovation doesn't happen by one person. One of the myth in innovation is that innovation is for the selected few who are very creative, and those are the people who are going to innovate. That's not true. Innovation really happens, or creativity really happens, when you're able to collaborate with several people in the organization and build on each other's ideas and then bring it to a place where it becomes a value proposition for a customer. So mindset, I think, is innovation is more of a mindset than tools. There are several tools, there are several processes, like I said, for you to go about innovation, but mindset plays a very, very important role. And that's where the leadership comes in, as to how do we drive that mindset within an organization.
So we'll come to the processes, tools, and leadership as well, Vishal. But I'm glad you highlighted this. I would say the core element of innovation being mindset. If we don't have that mindset, you mentioned a few experimentation, ability to manage failure, risk, and other things. If these are not there, and I've been part of many such organizations, and even as a consultant earlier in my career, where I saw that everybody wanted to talk about innovation, but they didn't want to take any risk at all. Now, if you don't want to take any risk at all and you penalize or punish failure, even the slightest failure, then what is the message we are giving to our employees or team members is that, look, boss, innovation is good to talk about, but I don't want any failures. I don't want a single rupee loss or single dollar loss, but I want you to be innovative. I want you to be this and that and everything. The message clearly is that this is nonsense. It is not going to work. And people are very intelligent and smart. They quickly figure out that this is only lip service and it's not going to happen. I'm sure you have seen some of this earlier in your career, as both as an employee, as a consultant. Any views on this? Have you seen this? Is it as common as I think, or I have just been the unlucky one and been always in situations like this?
Yeah, so I think you are asking a very important question, Anshuman, as to why will people give you ideas is a question you should ask.
Yeah.
Why will they give you ideas? One, they will give you ideas when they know that by giving an idea, first of all, it will not be shot down directly, and I will not get any criticism, right? Second is they will give you an idea when they know that the process of giving an idea is appreciated and rewarded in the organization, right? For example, if you look at reward systems around innovation, a lot of reward systems are around rewarding people who come up with a solution that after implementation you get X percentage of the benefit, or whichever way you're rewarding. However, the behavior, the willingness to put your hand up and give an idea also needs to be rewarded. So how are your reward systems around innovation actually designed? That's the second area. So the third is the history with these ideas, right? What has happened in the past when I've given an idea, or when the team has given an idea? Did it go into a long approval process and got stuck because we never had the metal to actually bring it to conclusion? Or were we able to move fast through the design and testing phase with the customers to be able to bring it to a point where we can actually get some feedback from our customers. And the last one that is also important when people give ideas is the speed of implementation. How soon can I see this idea coming to realization? Because one of the most satisfying feelings for an employee in an organization is their idea being implemented or being as a part of the service or the product. There's no other. So the employee engagement goes skyrockets when these things happens in the organization. So it's a combination of several things that you have to do around your innovation activity, innovation intent, to make innovation real. That comes from leadership, that comes from rewards, that comes from how you're setting up your environment for accepting failures, and how do you reward, and what kind of behaviors you're willing to reward and advocate in the organization.
Sorry, I was on mute. I was so engrossed in what you were saying, but very well said. I think the mindset part is, I think it is becoming very clear to me, Vishal, that you are pretty much a mindset for innovation kind of a facilitator, and I will use the word that you wanted me to use, facilitator. And that is extremely important because we are not actually doing innovation, we are helping innovation happen. And as a organization, CtrlX would also like to be in situations where it is helping, it is around when the innovation is happening. You can't do the innovation for the client, right? The client is in the situation, and innovation has to come from there. Just like creativity as well, so you can learn from other people's ideas, but eventually you have to come up with an idea which will work for you. So fair enough. Moving on, I will take a few questions now, Vishal, from the audience, so that we can mix and match a little bit. We'll take a couple, and then I'll come back to my. So Sesh, I will post the question on the screen as well, so that you can also read. How can Sesh is asking? How can I enable my team to innovate? As leaders, we communicate a lot, encourage, but we have very few passionate people coming forward. So I think two parts I can see. One is how can he help his team, and of course he's asking for many of us. And second part is that when people don't come forward, what can we do to make sure or help them come forward?
Yeah, this is a very common question that I get, Anshuman, and I'm assuming, Saish, thank you for this question, and I'm assuming you're in a leadership position, and that's why you're asking this question. So I'll give you two simple tips, Saish. First, as a leader, start saying I don't know. So you should ask yourself, how many times in a day do I say I don't know, right? As a leader, because in organizations, employees believe that leaders have answers to all questions, and that's a myth that you have to first break. So start saying I don't know as many times as you can when you come into situations, and then the follow up question to that is I need your help.
Hmm.
Um, and and when you combine these two questions, yeah, is when people will first come forward for you to help you. And this is called proactive inquiry, right? You should be This proactive inquiry is I'm willing to, I believe, as a leader, I believe in the collective intelligence of my team, and I'm willing to say that I don't know, and I'm willing to get help. That's the first thing. Once you do that, the second thing, then what you need to do is how do I create an environment where any problem, any idea, anything that comes up doesn't get shot down, doesn't get criticized, and the right behaviors are being encouraged. Um, and rewards around it. There should be an incentive for people giving you ideas. People don't give you ideas just for the sake of giving you ideas, right?
Yeah.
How do you build your incentive system, and what is your, as a leadership, what is your commitment to take that idea to a logical conclusion? You might want to say that it doesn't work, it's not viable, we will not be able to make this happen. That is fine, but how soon can you say that? How much of bureaucracy and approvals do you have in your system to bring an idea to its logical closure? A combination of all this, will then create an environment when people will be willing to come up and give you ideas even when you don't ask them. There'll be a point when people start giving you ideas when even when you don't ask them. And the
Yeah.
last comment, last just one last tip, Shesh, I want to give you is it's never one idea that drives innovation.
Hmm.
It is a combination of multiple ideas that always drives innovation. So the question you should ask is, when I get one idea from an employee, what am I doing to propagate that idea across the organization so that people can build on it? It's only at the cross section of two ideas when innovation happens. And a lot of organizations fail to do this because the idea only comes to your manager. So Shesh is asking me for an idea, so I give an idea to Shesh. What happens after that? There could be three other people who could build on that idea and make it even more valuable for your customers. So all these aspects are important for you to bring an idea, for you to encourage people to come up with ideas. And what do you do as a leader when that idea is goes through the ideation process? I hope, Shesh, I have been able to answer that question.
I am sure you have, Vishal. The format of the show is such that of course, Shesh will comment and if he has a follow-up question. But I was listening intently, and I really loved the point and about intersection. And there is enough research now which says that actually almost all the path breaking innovation happens when knowledge of one field is applied into another field, right? So the demand is in one field, the knowledge is in another field. And when, if we take even simple things like a car, right? So the invention or innovation of a car, and I actually call it innovation because it was a life cycle, of many other innovations. So wheel was already there, engine was already there. It had to be put in a passenger kind of a situation, and that took almost 30-40 years to be able to have a viable product that can be called a passenger vehicle. And from there also it took another 20 years for it to have enough seating for 3-4 people, enough mileage to go 20 kilometers, and so on. So that we will cut out. But the knowledge from steam engine, the knowledge from already existing modes of vehicle or transportation was to be brought into one situation. Even if we see many Nobel Prize winning, innovative work, we will find that the people are actually from some other field.
Yeah.
So a person from chemistry winning a physics Nobel is quite common, and vice versa, or both is quite common. That is because they are able to bring that knowledge from one area to another. So this is an extremely important point in innovation, is that don't expect innovation to come from the same people who are using that product or service day in day out, because they will only suggest a better way to do the same thing. They will not be able to suggest a new or radical way to do the same thing. And that is not a commentary on them. It is a commentary on how innovation works. So it is always good to learn new things so that we can apply. And like I keep sharing this example that, everybody talks about a phone being an innovation. Phone is an incremental innovation, but the ability to convert data into small packets and transfer over the air, when that ability was developed, that is what led to all of this. So that is the true innovation, and then everything else is working on top of that. Okay, so we'll take one or two more questions, Vishal. I think you got quite interested in the questions from the audience, so we will do more of that. I'll bring Jayant's question. So Jayant and I go long back. We were in the same organization in 1994. So there's a long, long association. Good to see you, Jayant. And his question is, can you please touch upon the ecosystem required for focus on innovation in our existing products? So, assuming that he has some existing product and services and wants to improve the ecosystem required for focusing on innovation. You spoke a little bit about this, but if you can summarize for Jayant.
Yeah. So, Jayant, I'm glad you asked this question. This is an important question because what you're asking is something that fits right in between incremental innovation and disruptive innovation. So you have your core product and you want to innovate around your core product. So there are a couple of tips here. The first thing you should ask is, are you clear about what is your core product, and is that and have you selected your core product? After doing that, you need to look at what is the promise that I'm going to deliver through this product? What is the customer promise that I'm going to deliver through this product? What is my brand promise that I'm going to deliver through this product? And identify that brand promise. And then look at creating a complementary set of innovations around that core product. Now, for example, if you take an example of GoPro, if you have seen, do you use GoPro, Anshuman? I'm sure you looked at GoPro, right? GoPro at initially was a disruptive innovation, wherein you created a camera for action athletes and for action photography. However, the reason why GoPro has been so successful is because of the complementary innovations that have been created around that core product to deliver that brand promise for action photographers, and the set of things that come around it, including the app, your ability to edit the video, your ability to post it on Instagram quickly, and the set of accessories that you will get, and the whole even all the videos, the community, GoPro community that you can get a part of. So you should think about, if I don't want to innovate on the product itself, which is incremental innovation, can I create small innovations around the product that can complement each other together to deliver on one brand promise? And can I control that all these complementary innovations together? And that's where you will see a lot of innovations that are there these days. Um, for example, if you have heard of USSA, Anshuman, if you have heard of USSA, it is an
Yeah.
insurance company in the US, for mostly for their armed forces personnel, that was created, and one of the most successful uh, banking organizations that no other bank is able to touch, right? So one of the innovations that they did as a part of their insurance, for their property insurance, is, or for the auto insurance, for example, is that when an accident happens, right? They have created an innovation where a drone can go to the accident spot, quickly take pictures of that spot, and come back, and using those images, you can either do it for a property insurance during a disaster, or during an accident for an auto insurance. Imagine that you met with an accident, unfortunately, and you had to go to the claim process, and you had to wait for the insurance advisor to come and inspect your car, and all of this is all of this is done in like 30 minutes from the time of accident. Now that drone is not part of the core product, insurance product, but it has
Hmm.
been created around that innovation as a complementary innovation with a partner, and controlled together as a full service. And that's what makes innovation, these innovations, this is known as a third way of innovation, not necessarily incremental or disruptive, but keep your core product and innovate around it. And that's the ecosystem that you need to think about. The one other important thing about that ecosystem, because you're asking about that ecosystem, is how much control do I have on that ecosystem to be able to deliver to that bond promise consistently, without failing. And if you're able to do that, even if you don't innovate on your core product, you can still beat competition, because it's very hard to manage these type of innovations, because it needs grit and commitment, like I said, for implementation.
I'm glad, Vishal, you brought in this topic because, see, eventually, like in our old, we both have a background in quality, so we, grew up in quality and related topics. One of the things we were always looking at improvement projects is what will it improve?
Yeah.
So it has to be either cost, it has to be speed, it has to be quality. Something has to improve. Right? So same holds true for innovation as well. Innovation for innovation's sake may not get us anywhere, except of course when you are trying to take the edges of your profession and extending those edges. There will be those kind of innovations always, and but essentially it should change something. Like in the drone example, the insurance example you shared, it is speed and convenience for the customer in this case, who's unfortunately met up with an accident. It will be hugely useful if all this work is taken away, there is another case study that I sometimes teach about Progressive Insurance. There is another insurance organization which made a similar thing, that they offered a then and there settlement for the accident, saying that you don't have to take it to the garage, this that, because they figured out that they can cut a lot of red tape, lot of steps from the process, and that becomes a lean process. So that is also another innovative way. It may not be completely innovative in the sense that it totally doesn't disrupt anything, but it does help customers find something useful.
And the
Okay.
advantage, just to add there, Anshuman, the advantage of this innovation is that it doesn't come with high risk like a disruptive
Hmm.
innovation. If your
Correct. Correct.
disruptive innovation fails, then you have a high risk of completely going down, right?
The
But this
stakes
is
are
you
high.
can always go back, and that's why this culture is important, right? For example, Amazon talks about Amazon is the most one of the most innovative organizations in the world. So they have whenever they have to make decisions, they talk about what type of door am I opening? Is it a one-way door or is it a two-way door?
Hmm.
Right? And when I say one-way door or two-way door, what I mean is this decision when I make, am I able to come back
Hmm.
and undo that decision later? And if I'm able to come back and undo that decision later, let's go ahead, because experimentation is key. um,
Yeah.
so so this is kind of decisions that you make that you can always undo. They can always say don't want a drone, not a big deal, right? Your core
Fantastic.
product is still the same. So that's the advantage of these type of innovations.
I I'm so pleased that Jayant asked this question, and that took us to a slight tangent, but a very useful tangent, because this is the conversation, and this is why live shows are amazing, Vishal, because we can start with one point and actually cover several other key points. So thanks for that. I will take. I wanted to actually ask about a question. um uh, and I'm just looking for that question. Sonia Birla has asked that question, which is something similar to what I had in mind. How to improve ourselves on innovation techniques, and so obviously the question is about, and we did discuss earlier that there are many methods, processes, and all. So maybe it is that time in the show where you can share with us some techniques, methods, assuming that the mindset is in place. So because that conversation we have already had, right? So it is my question through Sonia.
Yeah, so there are several techniques for innovation, because innovation is such a vague, not vague, but such a it's not a linear process. So there's no one way to do innovation. Like I said, it depends on what type of innovation are you trying to do, and hence the technique applies. So let's say if you want to learn one of the popular approaches of innovation is design thinking. But design thinking is only applicable when you want to go through the value chain of the customer, right? You want to do the value chain of the customer. So for example, jobs to be done is a technique.
Hmm.
Design thinking is a technique. All these techniques focus on the value for the customer, and hence it's got empathy, it's got observational research, it's got all of that built in to create a human centered design or a human centered service. Okay, so that's one of the techniques. The blue ocean strategy on the other side is an innovation technique. They might not be popularly known as innovation, but it's still an innovation technique, because you're talking about creating new markets for latent needs where competition becomes irrelevant, right? So that's a different technique. So what you do there is very different from what you do in design thinking, for example, right? Then
Hmm.
you have lean startup, another technique where you say, I don't want to do new products for new markets, but I want to take a product and quickly do a prototype of that product,
Hmm.
understand whether it will fit a particular market or find the market for my product, and then if I don't find that market, quickly iterate and pivot to another product. That is what lean startup does. And
Yeah.
then there is your traditional innovation, which is called full value innovation, right? Which is around the value chain of your organization, as to how do we do innovation along the value chain of the organization, not the customer, of the organization. the value of how the process in the organization works. And there are several innovations that you can do there. For example, all the process innovation, business model innovation, all these different types of innovations there are 10 different types of innovations that you can do there. So there are several techniques, and the foundation of this is creativity. That you have to be curious and willing to shed your preconceived pattern thinking methods of problem solving. And for that, you should be able to. You have to, and there are some there are several thousands of creativity tools that you can use. So, the Sonia, to answer your question, how do I improve my innovation techniques? Is first, be curious, learn about all these techniques. There are various books, various ways you can learn about all these techniques. There are several of them, and then find a use case to apply this. Not necessarily in a business context, but in your own personal context. You could do a lot of these in your own personal context. So, curiosity and creativity are two fundamental blocks that you will need to learn innovation techniques. Um, Especially, if I would say this, especially for Lean Sigma, Six Sigma experts, uh, Anshuman. The reason why I'm saying that is because we are so used to structured thinking. We don't want to come out of that structured method, linear thinking process, and that is important for you to learn innovation techniques.
So Sonia, I will settle with you later. You gave Vishal a chance to take a dig at me, but but we both come from a Lean Six Sigma background. But and thankfully both have grown from there because we've used that as a platform and as a lever to explore other areas, and that's how we learn, right? So on a serious note, everybody learns when they build on their current knowledge and then use or learn new things and apply. And
And
you know,
unlearn and
and
unlearn.
unlearn, of course. So particularly since you brought up Lean Six Sigma and all, I keep meeting a lot of candidates and even team members where I keep reminding that, look, this worked 15, 20 years ago. The principles may work still till today, right? Principles of modern quality management taught by Juran and Deming still work today and maybe work maybe 100 years from now. Those are core principles. But the methods and techniques may have to change, right? So, what worked in a car that you bought in 1930s and 40s, if you start driving your car the same way today, you will be put in jail. So, the methods of everything that we do, because many things have changed, need to need to improve. But glad. So Sonia got the joke, so she's at least responding. Quickly, another question from Vikas. Vikas is another regular on the show, so he's asking, and this question is coming from YouTube. So good that we have some audience on YouTube as well. Innovation in IT services is often construed around process efficiency and automation. It is important to be competitive. Can you share some insights on the IT service side we can do continuously? So what I understand, Vishal, is that his question is, can you share some examples from IT services around innovation and the likes?
Yeah. So not specifically around IT services, but I think when it comes to like I said earlier, that if IT services is your if your is core value proposition, then what is important for you to look at is how can I make that core value proposition uh, more desirable for my customers from an IT services standpoint. What can I do around it? Um, so yes, automation, even AI. Right now we are entering the age of creative AI, where we are saying that even creative AI could probably also do creativity in some time, can get creative in some time. So um, so yes, process automation are vital for IT services. However, how do you provide those services? What's the process in which you actually interact with your customers? How do you make that experience seamless? Is something that you can probably maybe Anshuman, you can add something from your experience in IT services, right? You've been there. You're on mute, I think. Anshuman.
Don't I sound awesome on mute? So, but because the innovation in the IT services space will usually be driven by a new technology. So there will be some new technology that will make things simpler. I'll give you an example. When cloud storage came in, it is simple. It is a way of saying that when money was invented, where did you keep money, or where did our ancestors keep money? They would keep money under the mattress, under the floor, or dig up a well, put it in the cabinet, because banks were not safe. Even assuming that banks existed at that time, or something similar to a bank existed, banks were not safe. Slowly it became the reverse. It was unsafe to keep money in the house, but it was much safer to uh, keep it in the bank. Same thing happened for your information and data. It was unsafe to keep it in a public cloud earlier because it was not safe enough, but you wanted everything on premises. Eventually, it is much safer to keep your data in the cloud than in your on-prem servers, right? So that change has already happened. So this happens in every industry actually. What starts out as a disadvantaged kind of a solution, sometimes not for everything, but for something, and that is now happening for, say, if you want some solution similar to this, you can do a container solution where the cloud will actually be in your premises in a container. So many such things, innovations. That's why I say many innovations in IT services actually are driven by a new technology, and the application of that technology becomes the innovation. Right. So if the technology, you can consider it as an invention, not always, but if you get what I mean, the invention then becomes or fuels other innovations. The applications of those inventions become innovation. Same like you mentioned automation. So the concept of robotic process automation or any kind of automation is not new. It's been around. But now, because the processing power of systems is very fast, the ability to pick data, compile, produce, because all of that has become very fast, it is now useful. Same for AI. What AI we see today has been around since 1950s, but it was not possible with the existing computing power to deliver a useful, customer-friendly, usable application. Today, it is in your pocket because the phone itself can is so competent. It is far more competent than computers or even supercomputers 25, 30 years ago, that it can do all those processing, everything in a microsecond or a nanosecond, which was not possible earlier. So many times, the technology may exist, but the other things catch up, and at some point they converge. Even the cloud thing, it has been for 40, 50 years, it's been around, but it was not efficient enough to be used. Now it is efficient enough to be used. So sorry, Vishal, slightly monologue, but let us blame Vikas for this, right? So he asked a question that prompted this slightly long answer. So Vikas, in true spirit of good management, you are blamed for this question. um, okay, so Santosh is, and we are towards the end of the show, Vishal. But I will take 5 minutes toward the end because I have a couple of questions that I still want to ask you. But I'm quite excited that audience is asking a lot of questions. And Santosh apparently is from your connections. How do we measure success of innovation? And he's corrected the question later on, saying how do we measure success of innovation program,
Mhm.
essentially on shorter term, while long term could be the monetization. So long term, of course, everybody wants to make money, but how would you assess the success of an innovation program in the shorter term? Good question, Santosh. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think this is where Santosh, what comes in is what kind of behaviors do you want to drive, and hence what kind of metrics will you measure when you drive innovation programs within organizations. That this question comes in. So there are several metrics you can use, and these metrics are not consistent across, but it depends. It can really be customized for your particular organization. Innovation index is one of those metrics or measures where you create an index based on multiple factors that you can use to compare business units across your organization to say where are they on that index, and that index can be created on using, let's say, number of ideas that business unit generates, number of people that are getting trained, number of ideas that get implemented, the speed of implementation of those ideas, how many people are collaborating on a particular idea. That is from an ideation standpoint, right? So you could create an innovation index. You could look at the speed of actual evaluation of ideas as one of the other measures, right? When you're driving innovation, as to how long do you take to evaluate an idea. So when you run innovation sprints, we generally say within 4 to 6 weeks, you should be able to drive a challenge, design or craft a challenge, take it through ideation, get it evaluated, and bring a prototype within 4 weeks. So what's your speed to innovation is another important measure short term that you can look at. The third thing is how much collaboration are you driving with your partners and customers, and your end customers. How much of co-creation are you able to do? How many such events are you running where your clients, your customers are actually co-creating your innovation for you? Your partners are, how many open innovations are you doing? That's another measure of short-term success. And then finally, how does innovation sit into your overall strategy, overall business strategy? Where is it? Does the success of the business depend on success of your innovations? Is there some linkage? Have you created that linkage? What's your uh, uh, what's your aspirational vision for innovation for the for innovation program, and how does it link to your business strategy? So when you look at all of this together is when you start getting these measures, right? And finally, you should look at engagement. Very, very important measure of innovation. Although you feel that it is not really directly linked to innovation, but if your employee engagement on innovation events is continuously increasing, and you see a high number of people engaging, ideating, and then also recommending these events within the organization, then clearly you're on the right path. These are all the short-term measures of saying that you're on the right path. Eventually, you will get there where you get the value realization, right? When I say value realization, it's about reducing costs, it's about increasing revenues, it's about speed to market, it's about all of that. But these are the short-term measures.
Thanks. Santosh, I hope you had your answer. And we are getting quite a few comments. I will select one. Dr. Nidhi, thank you very much. So, last few minutes of the show, and I quickly wanted to your response, Vishal, on one question, and then we'll wrap it up. One is, of course, and we briefly touched it earlier, but eventually the buck stops with the leadership, right? So leadership creates the culture for anything in the organization, good, bad, ugly, everything, right? So they get the credit, they must also get the debit, right? So that, of course, we will debate another time. But my simple question right now is that what can leadership do to create a better culture for innovation or a better ecosystem? I think similar to Jayan's question earlier. Any summary for that question?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics, Anshuman. And thanks for asking that question. But I won't give you a cliched answer that leadership should have a vision, they should be committed. I won't give you a cliched answer.
Sure.
So I think what's important is, so you have heard this, right? You have heard that necessity is a mother of innovation,
Yeah.
right? But the daughter of innovation is freedom.
Hmm.
Okay.
You saved the best for the last. So say
No,
that
you
again.
asked the question last. So if leadership can create freedom in the organization, freedom of expression, freedom of creativity, freedom of feeling, freedom of putting your hand up and saying there's a problem, freedom of saying that I don't know the answer, right? I just
Hmm.
don't know. People are scared of saying I don't know, right? And and of course, like I said, creating incentives, creating structures for innovation to flourish, and taking fear out of the system. How do you take fear out?
Hmm.
Because, and that's where we go into the side of psychological safety, right? How do we take that fear out? If you're able to take the fear out as a leadership, if you can create freedom and you can take fear out, whichever ways you use, it doesn't matter whether you have a strategy, you don't have a strategy, it doesn't matter, right? If you're able to do these two things as leadership, then you've cracked it. um, then you've really cracked it, right? And empowerment, of course, um, for your employees to be able to make decisions on behalf of the customers. And if you look at Amazon, there are several such stories, right, of what they do. So
Yeah,
you've heard, Anshuman, you've heard of the and-on cord concept in Lean,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Amazon, I don't know if you know that Amazon applies and-on cord in Amazon,
Hmm.
wherein a person on who is actually assisting the customer has the ability to take the product off Amazon if they feel it is deviating from their customer brand promise.
Hmm.
The customer service associate can take the product off. That's the empowerment you need to give, right?
Hmm.
So if you're able to create freedom, if you're able to create freedom and take out fear, then you're going to crack it.
Great. Okay, so we are at on time, but I will quickly, so if somebody after this session or later on somebody sees this session, Vishal, and they want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So you're asking me, Anshuman?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if after
Yeah,
this session people want to get in touch with
you can
you,
reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can share my email. You can reach out to me on email. I think LinkedIn is the best way, Anshuman,
yeah,
to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or help you in any way that I can.
that would be nice. And there are a lot of questions, Vishal, but I had booked 1 hour of your time, and I know you wanted to do a slight slideshow on some options as well. We could not bring it. Do you want to try that? We have a couple of minutes if you
Yeah,
want to do it. So I'll
yeah.
try and bring that in.
Yes, I think we can try that. Just give me a minute. I think the first one is not active anymore.
Okay.
So I think just to wrap up to help you, Anshuman, are you able to?
Yeah, I can see
So
that.
if you can, if all of you, whoever is there, can go to this menti.com and use this code, which is on top, right? 63857420, and just answer this question. What was your aha moment in this conversation? Just for me and Anshuman to get a sense of where we are. And maybe Anshuman, if necessary, we could do a small follow up
Sure.
session for the targeted group.
Yeah, I am trying to do that myself. 6385.
7420. It's right on the top.
Yeah. So let's see.
Have you pasted your response, Anshuman?
I'm doing that. I did that.
Okay. Let's see. I think then these have to come in.
Unless I did something. No worries. Looks like something did work.
Okay. Looks like it's not coming through.
No problem. So let's maybe we'll do another session. So fantastic. So I'll wrap up the show. Vishal, thank you very much on behalf of the entire audience and anybody who will watch this show later as well. So great. Thank you very much. I have one small homework for the audience. Those who are still in the show and have attended the show, why don't you make one small post out of what you remember, three things that you remember from Vishal's session today, what he shared, any in any order of importance that you feel like, what stayed with you. Don't leave the show, just jot it down on a pen and paper, use a pen and paper and make a post out of it, tag Vishal and me, so that this message goes to more people more people can benefit. And of course, it will be a post for you. If you are active on LinkedIn, you need material for your post, right? So this becomes a post as well. I give that homework to people who attend my shows, and hopefully you will be able to do that. So I will repeat: if you're still in the show, note down three things that you remember from what Vishal shared, or some of what I shared, anything that you remember. And if you can do more than three, fantastic. Make a post out of it, tag Vishal and me, and uh, post on LinkedIn or any other social media that you have. With that, I'll close the show, but not before I announce the next show. Next show is on image makeovers. So, in mid careers and in any stage of our career, senior, junior, everything, we often need some kind of a mid career, right? So, some kind of an image makeover. So, I will be bringing India's top image makeover consultant, Aarti Sharma, on 29th, which is 2 weeks from now, same time, 11 a.m. Saturday. So look out for that show. And once again, thank you, Vishal. Amazing to talk to you. And this time we had a good conversation like we always have, but this time we had an audience, right? So good
Thank
fun.
you, Anshuman, and thank you
Thank you so
everyone
much.
for attending.
Bye bye. Bye, everyone.